Nobody likes to admit this, but some people actually regret moving back to Nigeria. Not publicly, not openly, but quietly. In their own thoughts. From outside, everything looks good. They've moved back, they're settled in, they're posting, they're smiling. The pictures look beautiful. The captions sound hopeful. The family moments look warm. The homecoming videos feels inspiring. Everything appears like the dream worked out exactly the way it was supposed to be. But internally, there's a completely different conversation happening. One that sounds like, did I make the right decision? And the truth is, this is a conversation many people are having in silence. Because once you've announced your move, once you've told everybody, once you've made it look like this bold and beautiful life decision, it becomes very difficult to admit that it's not what you expected. It becomes hard to say, I miss my old life. It becomes hard to admit I'm not as happy as I thought I would be, because now it feels like more than a personal decision. It feels like a statement, a declaration, a dream. And when reality begins to feel different from that dream, pride often steps in, ego steps in, image steps in. Especially when people have been watching your journey, especially if you've inspired people with that move, especially if people are constantly asking, how is Nigeria? Because nobody wants to sound ungrateful. Nobody wants to sound like they failed. Nobody wants to feel like they made the wrong choice. So instead of speaking honestly, people go quiet. And that silence can be very loud inside your mind. Because regret does not look dramatic. It does not always come with tears. It does not always sound like, I hate it here. Sometimes it's too much quieter than we think. Sometimes it looks like waking up every morning and not feeling excited. Sometimes it looks like moving through your day and something just feels off. You're doing everything you plan to do. You smile on the outside, but inside you're questioning things. You find yourself wondering why you don't feel as happy as you thought you would. And sometimes that confusion is the hardest part. Because on paper, everything looks right. So you start questioning yourself. Why do I feel like this? Shouldn't I be happy? Shouldn't I feel grateful? Shouldn't this feel better than it does? And that's where the quiet emotional weight begins. Because before moving back, many people build a picture in their minds, a version of Nigeria that feels peaceful, a version that feels fulfilling, a version that feels emotionally aligned. You imagine family close by, you imagine the warmth of home, the familiar food, the language, the sense of belonging. No more feeling like an outsider, no more cold weather, no more isolation. You imagine freedom. You imagine more control over your life. You imagine a softer, more meaningful existence. And honestly, those expectations are understandable. But sometimes what people imagine emotionally does not fully match what daily life requires. Because reality is not just the emotional idea of home. Reality is the day-to-day effort it takes to function. Reality is traffic. Reality is unstable system. Reality is planning around power. Reality is making sure water, internet, security, and transportation are constantly in place. Reality is the mental energy required to create comfort. And that is something many people do not fully prepare for. Comfort in Nigeria requires intention every single day. And that gap between expectation and reality can be disappointing. Not because Nigeria is the problem, but because the expectation was incomplete. Then there is the financial side, the one that catches many people by surprise. A lot of people assume that moving back will automatically reduce their expenses. Sometimes it does, but many times it doesn't. In fact, sometimes it actually increases. Because now you're responsible for things that were previously built into your lifestyle. Example, power, water, security, transportation, reliable internet, staff support if needed, healthcare, schooling, the standard of living you want to maintain. All of these things require money. And if your income is not stable, that pressure builds quickly. Financial stress changes everything. It affects your sleep, your patience, your peace, your confidence, and most importantly, your money becomes stressful. And once money becomes stressful, it can start coloring your entire perception of your move. Then there is the social pressure. When people know you've moved back from abroad, there's an assumption that you're doing well. People assume you have money. People assume you have access. People assume you can help. People have expectations. I mean, family expectations just increase. Friends reach out, old acquaintance suddenly reconnect. People expect support, assistance, everything. People expect you to show up in ways you may not be ready to. And that pressure can become emotionally exhausting because now you're not only managing your own adjustment, you are managing other people's expectations of your life. That can feel heavy, sometimes heavier than the move itself. Then there is something deeper: identity. Because sometimes the hardest part of moving back is not the location, it is who you become within. I mean, abroad, you build a version of yourself, your routine, your standard, your independence, your structure, your habit. Then you come back and suddenly those systems no longer work. I mean, they work but not the same way, differently. So the rhythm is different. The culture feels familiar, but also strangely unfamiliar. And that can create an identity shock. You start feeling caught between two worlds, too foreign for home, too Nigerian for abroad. And that in between space can feel lonely. You begin to wonder where you truly belong. Sometimes this regret does not even begin immediately. Sometimes it starts in moments. I mean, small moments, quiet moments, moments that seem insignificant until they begin to repeat themselves. Maybe it's a mother who moved back because she wanted her children to grow up around family. She wanted to, she wanted her kids to know their grandparents, to know the culture, to have the kind of childhood she remembers. But then the school options do not fully align with what you had in mind. The cost of quality education is higher than expected. The help she thought she could have from family is not as consistent as she imagined. Suddenly, she realizes that moving back did not automatically create the village she was hoping for. Then there's a single woman who moved back, believing this was where life would finally begin to make sense. She thought coming home would bring clarity, better connection, a stronger support system, a sense of belonging. But after a while, she starts to notice that the loneliness she thought she was leaving behind abroad now shows up in a different form. Then there's the family who moved back after years abroad because they wanted to build wealth at home. They looked at the exchange rates, the investment opportunities, real estate. Then the realities of doing business begins to finally unfold. Timeless stretch, unexpected costs begin to appear. Every delay starts to feel personal, and slowly frustration begins to grow. Sometimes what people call home is actually memory, not reality, memory. Because the Nigeria you left years ago is not always the Nigeria you return to. And the version of you that left is not the same version returning. You're trying to return to a feeling, a memory, but life has moved on. The country has changed. And most importantly, you have changed. Sometimes the disappointment is not about Nigeria. Sometimes it is about the collapse of the fantasy. And that collapse can feel personal. Because for years, you may have told yourself, one day, when I go back home, everything will make sense. So when that alignment does not happen immediately, it can shake you. A hard transition does not mean you made a bad decision. No. Sometimes it simply means the story in your head did not include the hard parts. Now, let me be even more honest. Some people did not move back because they truly wanted to. Some people moved back because life abroad became unbearable. Sometimes it was burnout. Sometimes it was loneliness. Sometimes financial pressure. Sometimes immigration stress. I mean, sometimes it was just simply survival. And when you make a move from a place of emotional exhaustion, sometimes you're not moving towards something, you're running from something. A new location cannot heal what you never processed. That is why some people arrive back home and still feel unsettled. Because the move changed the geography, but not the emotional wound. You can be grateful and still acknowledge what is difficult. You can love being back and still struggle. Sometimes moving back can be the right decision and still come with moments of regret. That does not make you inconsistent. That makes you human. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is stop defending a decision and start improving your life. Stop defending the decision. Start improving your life. Because once you stop trying to prove the move was right, you free yourself to ask better questions. What did I do right now? What did I do wrong? What is missing? What is draining me? What can I change? Sometimes peace begins with boundaries. Too many people have access to you, your energy, your finances, your emotions. Everybody feels entitled. And without boundaries, that can quickly turn into resentment. Please do not sacrifice your peace for pride. Do not stay in emotional discomfort just to protect your image. This is your life, not a performance, not content, your real life, and your peace matters. So instead of asking, did I make a mistake? Ask yourself, what needs to change for this life to feel aligned for me? Because that question gives you power. You're not stuck. You're in process. And in the middle of every major life decision is often uncomfortable. But discomfort does not always mean the decision was wrong. Sometimes it simply means you're still adjusting. Take your time. Be honest with yourself. Remove the shame. Trust yourself enough to make whatever changes you need. More people feel this than they admit. Yeah, they're just not saying it loud. But don't worry, you'll figure it out. You will be okay. Until next time, my name still remains Sarah Donald, and if you love what you listen to, please do well to subscribe, comment, like, and share this video with someone you feel it might help. Thanks and stay blessed.